Namaste to everybody who has joined on this Sunday afternoon to get back on 43rd episode of Teen Sawal, Three Questions with Dr. Sandil Kumar. Probably this is after a long time that I'm doing a solo session, and that too specifically, I had stopped session on data literacy in my 42nd episode, and after that, there has been a break, and we have been kind of wanting to make sure that we will get back to data literacy very soon. But first of all, Happy New Year to all the participants who have joined now and who will be joining in the future too. I hope the academic year is already over. Most of you are gearing up with your preparatory examinations. Some of you have already completed your practicals. When the country is actually seeing a large change in the education setup of our country. Why I'm saying this particular point is with NEP coming in, whenever I go and talk to a lot of people in the community, and particularly beyond academics, and even in academics, particularly in higher and school education, one question is typically being asked to me, when is NEP going to be launched? And I think I've been trying to tell them NEP is already under launch. People have already started working into it. A lot of practices have been kind of incorporated into it, and we are working towards many things. And a lot of training programs have been done by the both the boards and the state boards have already started a lot of initiative. I was talking the other day at Haryana. Haryana government said that they are trying to look at the assessment methods itself into a quite different way. So it's not only that we are waiting specifically for one particular day when there will be a ribbon will be cut and then we will say, okay, from with effect from today, the NEP starts. No, NEP is already into action. And post NEP, there are two important documents which also came in the public domain, which was Foundation Literacy and Numeracy and School Education (NCF), which have come out very recently. Many of us have already started reading them, understanding them, and then we have been telling all the schools that take effort, take time to basically go through these things, because unless you go through, you will not be able to appreciate what is written there. And if and don't go by WhatsApp University, because there are a lot of wrong information which goes through the multiple social media platforms. So most of us who are attending and participating and seeing this particular episode today on SQAA, because this is one area which has been from a long time, people have been asking me to talk on this, and today I thought that I should be spending some time solo on this particular session. But it's very important for us that all of us who are here in this particular session and who will be watching this particular session, my request to all of you is very specific, that please read the document, and don't try to read only one particular chapter, one particular page, what you are what is connected to you. Because if you are a maths teacher, you will just open the senior secondary section of NCF school education, and you will, if you read only that, you'll never be able to understand, appreciate the whole thought process. And this is where I think many professionals like me, many people who are working with schools, many people who are helping schools, most of us have been trying to tell schools people that we are supposed to go back and look at learning outcomes. Some other day, I will try to, in one of my next episodes, I'll talk about NCF school education, because that's again something which people have been trying to reach out to me. So first of all, my apologies for not continuing the episodes in the month of December and January, but I assure you that we will try to pick up next couple of episodes in the following Sunday so that it becomes easier for us to understand, appreciate. And I would request all the people who are watching on Facebook, because many people requested me, can we do it on Zoom? I said no, because I don't know how many people, what kind of questions will come in. So I request all the participants, any specific questions related to SQAA only, because I have already got few questions coming on whether this year in CBSE there will be third language. No, please go back and follow the circular, ask your authorities. I would not like to comment anything on that, because this is something which is very specific to a board. And my request to all the people is, please follow these circulars, don't go by hearsay. So please wait. In case if you have a challenge, please ask your ROs, please ask your officials, because they will be quite helpful to you to get into this particular space. But what is the school quality assessment and accreditation? Because this particular dialogue has been happening for a long time. And fortunately, unfortunately, in India, we have been trying to look at quality of a school very specifically from academic results. We have not looked at the practices part of it. We have been always talking about one area, which is the performance. And typically, the performance also, when we try to talk about, we have been concentrating more on the academic, and that to 10th and 12th results. And those are the board examination results, which becomes quality benchmark or quality data, which people use it for their own convenience. And some people who have little more matured in that, probably they have been started looking at the utilization aspects of it. And when you try to talk about a school quality assessment and accreditation, we are here trying to talk about the assessment of a school as a whole, not only the academic practices. While the scores for the academic practices may be more, I'm not getting into scores, percentages, and all in this particular episode. I'm only talking about that how exactly SQAA can be used and how you can use it in multiple roles. Because many times we are trying to look at this particular framework purely from the perspective of from the perspective of uh, a compliance. Maybe I think even if CBSE removes this particular clause that next affiliation you're not supposed to put, I think many people will not even bother about it. And many people are waiting for a good day or auspicious day to say that we would love to kind of take up some of these things for longer period. So trying to cut short on this particular aspect. Let me again repeat, this is only a guidance program. We are not here trying to promote any one of the thought processes. What I'm trying to say is that I'm trying to look at purely from an independent quality practitioner perspective, because quality assessment accreditation across the globe has been done in two different parameters. One assessment is done by one particular organization, and accreditation is done by another organization. So there are two different organizations which actually trying to do. But then to create a culture of assessment and accreditation, I think in Indian context, it's a wonderful move that it has been done as a compliance. But over a period of time, I'm sure once the schools start maturing, they will be able to start appreciating how exactly to use this particular framework. And please understand, this is not just a, a question answer where you're just answering some questions. Because I was in one particular conference, I don't want to mention, in this particular conference, most of the CBSE school principals were there. And I asked them, most of them, that how many of you have taken up SQA? Most of the people raised their hands and said that we have applied for it and we have taken up it. When I asked them, which particular maturity level are you in? What is that level that you are in? And the most interesting thing which came up was that many people talked about that they were dynamic and stable. They were dynamic and stable. And I am not sure how many schools in the country are actually even at the stable level. And I'm making this comment very responsibly, because when we go around and try to see multiple schools we have seen, if somebody has some interesting case studies, please write to me, help@asktlc.in. I'll be more than happy to kind of respond to all those mail, and I would love to learn from that particular school which has rated themselves into 3 and maturity level 3 and maturity level 4, because it's very important for us to understand that the spirit behind it. It is not a affiliation document, please. It is not an affiliation document. It is beyond. It is beyond the way you run your campuses, the practices, whatever you are trying to do. If one particular person will live in your campus, do you think that your school will still run in that particular format? I'm not very sure. And this is one of the concerns that many schools are are expected to follow as a system, as a process. Because if we don't have processes very clearly defined with measurements, with roles and responsibilities and other thought processes, I'm sure you will never be able to make that as a system. You can go over a period of time. The longevity can actually make some practice on a routines, but improvement of that particular practice, I am not very sure how exactly this is going to be done. And all of us who have joined, my humble request to you is that don't try to look at from the compliance model, look from the excellence perspective, that you are serious about growth. And when I'm talking about growth, please be very clear about it, that it is not only the score growth, how your staff is feeling in the campus, how your parents are feeling in the campus, how your community is feeling about the campus. And I think if we are able to do this, I can tell you it will be a fantastic move. Another request, somebody has just sent it to me on WhatsApp saying that can we share? I think you are free to share this particular link, and this will be available on my YouTube channel after this particular session. And then we will kind of, you're free to use it, because there is nothing very specific that I'm going to kind of, talk about one institution per se as such. So you can use this particular model to go back and actually share. And right now, if you would like to share, I think some of you requested, don't worry, you are free to share, and I don't have any challenge. You can share it on your page so that let the right awareness go into the community. Coming back again to that particular area, the second thing which has happened in the country, which is again very significant, which is connected to SQA, is all about is SAFL. SAFL results have come. We will try to do one session on data literacy when we talk about, we will touch upon SAFL, but not today. But just I wanted to trigger this particular thought. SAFL is again an interesting model, interesting framework, which will help the school to assess where exactly your academic processes effectiveness is there. So if you try to look at SQUA as a framework, SAFL is just one particular, the criteria one, the domain one, as per your definition. I'm not using my definition, as per your definition on academics, particularly on academics and other areas. I think you really need to be very cautious. We need to be very clear that how exactly SAFL is a very interesting tool where your effectiveness is being assessed by the student. The students' assessments, the assessment of the student learning in math, science, and English. When we are trying to go through this particular area, we are actually assessing the effectiveness of our pedagogical practices. Many people came back and showed me the SAFL results and said, "Oh, we are doing fantastically well." But have you ever checked up that how many levels low your children are not able to answer those questions? Because if you are not able to do that, I don't know how are you reading data? How are you actually trying to look at it? And my concern too, when it comes to particularly student assessment, from the student assessment, the institution assessment, because these are all two things. Because our practices effectiveness gets clear by the student's performance, and when the student performs, takes up a assessment, I think it's a very interesting way to basically check the effectiveness of our own practices per se as such. And when we are going to do this kind of a thought process, we have to be very clear about it. So SAFL is again very important aspect. And right now, I was made to understand that February 29th is going to be the portal of CBSE is going to get closed. I think ICSE and other boards are still thinking about it or talking about it. I'm not very sure about it, but I think it's very important that in SQA, SAFL is for domain one. If you're just one of the measurable, I should say, measurable outcome of all the practices, whatever you've done, can be measured by the fifth and eighth assessment, which has been introduced by CBSE. And I congratulate. I think it's a very bold decision, because at one particular time we are talking about PISA for schools in the country, and on the other side we are trying to talk about SAFL. So probably when somebody asked me this particular question, PISA for schools and SAFL, and I said only one thing: SAFL 3, 5, 8, 10th may PISA for school. So that's the progression part of it, which we really need to look at it. So let's get back into the presentation, because today, unfortunately, I'll not be talking. I'll be trying to see that maximum things are being shared to you in form of a PowerPoint presentation, because that presentation will help me to put my thoughts in the structured format. So just give me a minute so that I can kind of quickly share the slides with you. Yes. I hope that you're able to see. Can one of you just comment on the comment box that you're able to see the slide? Okay. So you just got a message saying that you're able to see. So thank you very much. But before I start the session, let me again talk about the disclaimer, the ideas, the suggestions, the input, whatever I'm talking about, it's not a legal advice or endorsement of any product or service. My request to all of you is that please go back and follow what your affiliating board is expecting you to do. Point number one. Point number two, go back and try to see that how mature is your campus to initiate such change processes, because it should not become like this. It should not become like this, that people should start saying, Ki, Aapne bola tha. I have not said anything. I am only trying to share my thoughts, and these thoughts have to be validated by your affiliating board and the respective state wherever you are. So regulator and statutory authorities inputs have to be considered across. That's point number one. Point number two, whatever I'm trying to give here, it is at a general guidance level. What is done in industry, what is done in other countries, what is done in other sectors. From there, that particular learning is something which I'm going to kind of share my thought process as a cloth quality professional. The third important is I may be using a lot of images, text, and if at all, if it is of your institution, I think because this is being collected from World Wide Web. So if it is your institution, thank you very much. If it is not your institution, just enjoy the clip and try to understand that these clips are being used only to educate people in the best possible way. First and the foremost question, which I keep asking, we talk about that we have a fantastic, school. Now, when you try to talk about fantastic school, are you talking about building? Are you talking about the staff? Are you talking about the academic results? Are you talking about the financials? Are you talking about number of branches what you have started? Are you talking about the teachers' recognitions? Whatever. Are you trying to talk about the multiple media houses giving you recognitions, or the private organizations, NGOs, which are trying to give us recognition? I am not very sure how are you trying to talk about the effectiveness. Because when you are not very clear about your own thinking process in terms of effectiveness, how will you even try to tell anybody that this is what effectiveness basically means? Because at the end of the day, what is very, very important to us is that are we progressing in the right direction? Are we moving in the right direction? Are our practices giving us the desired result? So much karma I'm doing, whether this particular karma is available in the performance of mine. Because if my performance is not showing the strength, that means I am trying to fool myself. I'm trying to fool myself, which is wrong. You can get the best of practice. You can do a control C, control V of any of the best institutions across the world class institutions, and you say I follow this practice which is done by that particular organization or that particular school, that particular institution. I can tell you that you are actually not 100% sure about it, because you are not getting that particular desired result. You are not getting that particular desire. When you are not getting that desired result without understanding the context, without understanding the other things, how can we even say this that our school is effective? Because we're just getting results. How can you say that you have a attrition rate which is less? But is there something which is benchmark that you're trying to do? Is it something that has been talked about it? Every time there is one circular, the WhatsApp groups of multiple communities starts running and getting activated, which is wrong. And we really need to understand this particular perspective when we are trying to talk about effectiveness. Are we in the right direction? So when we are saying what is the right direction that I'm trying to talk about, I am trying to talk about the right direction. What is the school's vision? What is the mission of that particular school? What are the values? Are these values for only the what you call walls or diaries or website or presentations? Are they actually getting actualized in our campuses? And if it is not getting actualized, we are not moving anywhere. So when we try to talk about the effectiveness perspective, we have to be very clear. We have to be very clear about this particular perspective, that whatever we are trying to, whatever activity we are trying to do, we should be very, very clear that this should have some kind of an outcome to the student attributes of my school. If I am claiming, because one important aspect which many people really don't, they have the vision, mission, but they don't define the student attributes. And if you're not going to define the student attributes, I'm not very sure how are you going to go ahead and then start working on it? Because if you're not going to go back and work on it, then I think it becomes a challenge for you. It becomes a basic challenge for you because you will be kind of working around. You'll be working around uh, saying that okay, this is something which I am doing, and I would like to kind of work on saying uh, I'm doing this particular practice, but I'm not getting the result. But that should not happen. Because if you have planned for an activity within the compound wall of your institution, if you have planned activity or anything in your campus, because if one school does one kind of activity, other schools start following. Oh, okay, we are also doing. What are you doing? Why are you doing? Why that school has started? You're not very sure about it. What you are trying to do is that you are trying to say that, okay, this is what I am trying to do, and this is how I would love to kind of do it. So whenever we try to talk about the effectiveness of our school, we really need to look at this particular aspect, that are these people in our compound wall happy? Are these people happy? First and the foremost, the prime person in our compound wall is that particular student. Whether that particular student is happy in our compound wall, कितनी बार पूछा है पता नहीं. We don't even remember when was the last time that we asked children, are you happy in the campus? The parent and the alumni who have studied in your campus, are they really happy? What are they talking about it? How many people are even responding to the school satisfaction survey, which the school is actually sending it out? Because what we are trying to do, tell me, we just send out a circular. Nobody's, people, we send a Google form, just as an example. We send a Google form and we hardly get few people responding. Then what we do, people come for progress report or collecting the report card. That day, what we do, we give them this particular thing. Till you fill up this particular survey form, you will not get your report card. So automatically people, what they do, are they consciously answering that particular question? No. So we really need to go back and understand that is the parent community, is the alumni which comes in the compound wall. Somebody was just making a very interesting reference to me in one of the conversation last week. He said that one of his professors had just mentioned that he's going to Toronto for a week or so. And when he said from this date to this date, and immediately there were a lot of students who have written in that particular message what this particular person had posted on Facebook, saying that I'm just 30 minutes drive from here. I'm just 1 hour drive from here. Please tell me, where are you staying? Can we meet up? Why don't you come home? So now this is what the alumni engagement is. It is not about that you try to fix a date and tell people, all of you come in. How many people are coming by interest? How many people are coming back and contributing to the school is something which is very important. Because when we try to talk about the parent and alumni, are they really happy? The third important person who has to be happy in the compound wall is the staff. How suffocating the environment is. What was the last time that we asked staff and did a formal survey in our compound wall, which I'm not asking. The SQAA also expects you to do in the beneficiary satisfaction section. All these 6 elements are there in the beneficiaries. So I'm not talking from my perspective. This is what's supposed to be done. But now I'm thankful that at least SQAA has given some guidelines whom to ask, what questions to ask. So that's something very, very interesting. So whenever you are collecting, particularly from student, my request is try to take more than 70%, around 70, 75%. Please take the perception. Please take the perception part of it. Second important thing, when you are trying to look at the student, because they may or may not be mature as a student. So you have to, whenever survey you are kind of administering, try to see that around 25% is performance and 75% is perception. Coming to the parent, they may know, or they may or may not know all the practices. So parent, when you're taking the feedback survey, try to use 75% on perception and 25% on performance. But based on the maturity of your engagement in your school, you can look at that perception. Coming to the alumni, who is now understanding what is the perception of the school, what is the performance of the school, because he has experienced that educational experience with you for 12 to 15 years in your compound wall. When this particular person on your campus when this particular person has gone through this particular process with you, you have to be very cautious. You have to be very cautious that what kind of data points or what percentage of alumni feedback and how are you going to take it up. Staff, again, their perception and performance. 50% perception, 50% actual performance. And some of the parameters, some other day we will talk with just one or two on performances. What is the kind of innovative practices that has been introduced, by the that has been introduced by the teacher or contributed to the institution? Because many a times people don't want to contribute, but we don't even keep a stock of it. So one of the good practices that if you have a small compilation of 23, 24, what are the practices which got introduced? What are the practices which got improved? If you can have a compilation and then release that as part of the next academic year, so that what happens, slowly those practices can actually be adopted. Like somebody called me in one of the programs. I'm going for one of the functions very soon, competition between the teachers, where they are talking about 15 case studies. Different schools are going to do the presentation. So somebody said, how are you going to spend a whole day? I said, it's too long that I've actually sat down. What are the innovations that have been done by the teachers? So probably it's good to take time off for the principals and for the teachers too, to try to see that how exactly, what kind of actual practice improvements that have been done. Second, what perception people have, what kind of referrals are coming by the teachers itself. The once the we are trying to talk about the feedback from the staff, I think you are supposed to also action. Feedback actually means triggering the follow up thereafter. So when you try to talk about the staff part of it, when you talk about the performance, also talk about the perception. Coming to the community, because community is not on the routine inside the compound wall, but they are experiencing your teacher, they're experiencing your activities, they're experiencing your students, they're experiencing your buses. So what do they think about it? And what is the marriage of convenience for all of us, that we try to go through any other survey or any other, media house or any other private party who does the survey, and we take the data and we say, oh, our perception is fantastic. But actually what is being done by the external people, try to look at that also. Yeah, some schools do take, some kind of visitors book or some kind of expert things, which people can come back and ask me, can you write please write a comment on this? What to write comment? When I am a guest, normally I will write up positive things only. हम किसी की शादी में जाके we don't talk anything negative. We always say, oh, food is good, but maybe probably you really need to kind of see that how exactly you have to kind of strengthen that, how exactly to improvise on it. So community perception is again very important. The fifth important person who basically get ignored, I call him as Bichara, because he's trying to take care of the management aspiration, he's trying to take care of the teacher aspiration, he's trying to take care of the कभी किसी ने पूछ के देखा कि पेरे प्रिंसिपल कितना खुश है, how happy the principal is. If the principal is not very happy, I don't know when was the last time. Well, there may be some, appraisals. Somebody has just sent a comment. Appraisal hota teachers. Oh, principals appraisals do happen, fine. But are they really happy? And what my personal experiences while talking to many of the principals is that they become loners as they grow in their career. They don't have anybody to talk to. Then they start creating a set of people who are called as soft cushions for them. And then this particular soft cushions actually take them for a ride. And that's something very important. So my request to the managements, if you are watching this particular episode, and principals who are watching, please go back and tell your management that we would also like to give a feedback. And that's something very important. And the most important person who is doing the investment, who's spending time in reviewing, who is trying to make sure that all the activities and facilities are available on time. How many times did we go and ask the management, are they happy with whatever that is happening? Because they are the people who get into the community. They are the people who go for a dinner and somebody says, oh, aapke school ka wo teacher na, that particular teacher na, all those things they only basically hear. So kabhi management se bhi ask them, how happy are they? And if you can ask, and all these 6 parameters, what I'm talking, you can go back and refer SQAA document, and I'm not going to use SQAA document anywhere today. I'm just going to give you the elements from the SQAA document. All these are in the last domain, beneficiary satisfaction. So in the beneficiary satisfaction section, you will be able to appreciate that all these parameters are actually there. Now, find out if these people are happy, then automatically we can talk about how effective is your school. So let's get into the school. Because when we try to talk about school, there are a lot of parameters. People say that it is not there with me. I don't have a control on many of the parameters. There is a government, there is a CBSE, there is a affiliating board, there is a local, community leaders who are there. How do I try to take care of everyone? I completely empathize with you. But one thing which is very, very clear, have you defined your vision, mission, values very, very clearly? And if you are following it through, if you are following it through, I can tell you, I can tell you, nobody will come back and actually ask you. I have seen with multiple institutions where such practices are already been existing. But there will be 2 to 3% or 5% of people who will still come back and disturb you. You don't have a choice. You actually don't have a choice. You just have to kind of make sure that you are moving in the right direction and you are trying to add value. So if you are very clear with what you are trying to do, I think you really need to look at it. Normally, like people like us who were in this particular space, over a period of time, we have been always talking about how about the academic administration, and general administration. But I'm quite happy. I'm quite happy that for the first time in NCF school education, these three process orientation is actually very, very clearly visible in this particular NCF. And they are talking into three different areas, and the three different areas are very clearly mentioned. So, what is the curricular processes which are around the curricular area? So, what are those? Starting from timetable, assembly, library, student related, various committees, all that is uh, very looked at from the perspective of how the committees are performing, the forums, whatever multiple forums that you create, events, celebrations, whatever you are trying to do, you really need to be, clear, because we have to be very sure about it. We have to be very sure about it. All the curricular processes are put under that. Second, curriculum associated processes. So what is that we are trying to talk about in the curriculum associated processes? We really need to be clear about it, which requires the teacher, which is nothing but the teacher collaboration, the continuous professional development of the teacher standards. Now NEP is talking about, for the first time, we are going to have something called as national professional teacher, national professional standards for teachers, NPTS. I think that's something very interesting coming in. So how to engage with parents, the communities, the families, and mealtime, health, hygiene. If you are a government school or if you are a private school, you offer the meal and what kind of services you are trying to offer. So all those comes into the second part. The third area, which is written as organizational in the SQAA document, and my personal perspective, let's try to avoid some of the words from the industry. Try to, if you are using it for CBSE purposes, you can still go back and use it that. But my suggestion is institutional practice processes. And I think in institution, it's all little changes in the vocabulary, but you have to be a little careful about that particular aspects of it. Uh, there are some comments which have started coming quickly. I will kind of take those comments before proceeding further. Uh, Gubin Matthew says that absolutely we are in the right direction. Roshni says after taking the feedback, I think follow-up is equally important. Completely agree. Dipali Mishra says alumni feedback survey needs to be very carefully thought through. Yes, because if alumni, who are the alumni that you're trying to take? But don't try to take all those people who are for you. Try to take also those people who are mediocre, who are not able to complete their course. Older alumni may not be able to give appropriate feedback on the current perception of the school. In fact, every school world fam has to have the respective stakeholder and what the school wants to assess on from the feedback. Yeah, the purpose of feedback itself. Dipali, thank you very much for that. I also have Aishwarya Mal saying that alumni are our brand ambassadors. Thank you, Aishwarya. Completely agree with you. Uh, then Dipali agrees, says, okay, we need to look at the current context. And Maithili says, please don't forget that the ambassadors of tomorrow is your student today. So whatever he is going to experience. So more than ambassador, what I would like to say is that they are the people, they are the outcome of all the practices, whatever you've done. All what you are doing in your practices, if it is there. Because this particular dialogue is something which I've been fighting with many schools. This particular dialogue I've been fighting with many, many schools I can tell. Many schools I can tell. Because they don't even allow alumni on an annual day of the school. because they will come and do disturbance in the annual day. That's why they don't even allow, because it has been witnessed. So please understand, the student who has worked, studied with you for 15 years, you are not able to control that particular person. You're not able to make sure that that particular person is going wrong. I think he's a outcome of your experiences. So probably you were running your school like a pressure cooker, like a pressure cooker. And whenever this pressure cooker, as soon as he gets out of it, as soon as he gets the hall ticket, as soon as he gets his marks card, he or she is actually not part of the compound. So where are we trying to talk about alumni? I think we really need to think about this very, very carefully. Now you have understood this in SE in school, NCF school education. You have read some of these things. Let me try to take this specifically to SQAA now, because it's very important for us to understand how all these parameters are getting into SQAA. Because once we get into SQAA, we will be able to appreciate it better. Any school, any school for that matter, when we try to talk about any school, we have something called as curriculum, assessment, and pedagogical practices of that particular schools. Now, the most important thing is that how there's a process which I will talk about little later, but I will just take one area on academics, little detail, little later, not now, but I wanted you to look at that when we try to talk about a school, there is something which is called as curriculum and assessment practices or pedagogical practices of that particular school, which is very, very critical. If we have not defined that particular person who is joining your school as a new faculty, he or she is not even aware of it. He or she brings in all the practices, what she has learned over a period of time, and then she starts implementing that into your campus, and you have to be very cautious about it. Because if you're not going to work on that, if you're not going to work on it, you're not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere, because it'll be important and critical for you. Why I'm saying it's going to be important and critical for you? Because you are supposed to take care the core. The core for a school, the core for the school is from comes from the curriculum. And I'm not very sure how many of us have actually defined our curriculum framework for the school. And what does this curriculum framework comprise? Syllabus comes from the boards to you. Syllabus comes from the boards to you based on the context in which where your school is also located, based on the profile of people what you are serving, based on the aspiration of the society, trust, and the school management. What all this put together, what is your aspiration? And how are you trying to engage that into something called as very, very specific, called as attribute which the child will be able to see. That's where I said in my starting of my session that we really need to define something called as student attribute specific to my school. And that attribute will come only through the practices of my school. And if my practices of my school, curriculum practices, are not very clearly defined, I don't even know. Because in this particular CBSE conference, which I was referring, I asked people, how many of you have finished this? And, around 115 of them actually raised hand. It said that we have Dr. Sandil, we have the curriculum framework, and we have scored ourselves, into 3 and 4 in this squad. I asked them only one thing. In the first question of the SQAA, it very, very clearly says that do you have a pedagogical plan or a pedagogical structure based on 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4? So 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4, is it being defined? How the whole educational experience is going to be for the child. If we are not defining that grade-wise, if you're not defining them based on certain, practices, how can we even get those attributes? How can we get that attributes? Because it's not very sure that how people will get the attributes. Because if you're not going to get the attributes, you're not going anywhere. And I think it is something which, we really need to kind of work. And Matthew says very clearly, yes, indoctrination of new teacher with culture of the school in terms of academic practices is something very, very important. How the academic transactions happens, how are we designing it, how are we reviewing it in department meeting, what is the agenda that we are following is something which we really need to look at it. The second important thing is that a good curriculum designed for a set of environment is something which people really need to know. I think all of us have studied this particular point. All of us have studied something called as PKC, previous knowledge of the child when making a lesson plan. But are we doing similar thing for our school? I'm not very sure. My request to the people who are participants, who are kind of uh, participants of this particular session, is that do you actually know what is the profile of the students or the staff who are coming to our institution? One thing which people can actually talk about always is that, oh, I have PGTs, I have TGTs, I have doctorate. All that is good. I can assure you, we have seen in the past that lot of good doctorate people can't teach basics right for school children. University, they may be good, but when it comes to school, they are struggling to the core. They are struggling to the core. So what does that mean? What does that basically mean? So we really need to understand this particular point, that how exactly are we trying to work on some of these parameters to make sure that work done. And when we try to talk about the practices, when we try to talk about the practices, particularly from HR, how many of us even have a teacher standard in the school? Tell me. How many of us have? And for me, I look at only three things. One, which is about the subject of the teacher. Second, what I try to look at it, the role and the avatar given to that particular teacher. Given. Third, the behavioral aspects of it. If I try to look at these three parameters and I get into defining the teacher standard of my school, it'll be good. After all, what are we trying to talk about it? I think I'm not very sure. My request is, there is already a document which is already done by, I think, government had circulated this document. This document should be in public domain, where they are trying to talk about what could be the teacher professional standards. And in India perspective, if somebody needs, I think, write to me. We can have conversation on that particular thing. We can build upon it, because HR is something very, very important. So it is, people come and talk about appraisals, people talk about other things. When you've not defined the standard, how can you even go and do appraisals of somebody? How can you do appraisals to somebody and say that I'm going to appraise you on this criteria? But you are never even bothered to tell me. You have just given me a form to fill up every year, which I fill up, and I get the same thing. What the person who's not performing, he is and I am getting the same thing. People use 360-degree, people use multiple things. Please use if it is giving validation. But first, define the standard stuff. What first and the foremost thing, if you try to read the SQAA document, basically it talks about the compliance. Are your teachers qualified to deliver those grades? I'm not triggering any controversy. I'm just trying to make one point very clear, that qualification of the teacher is very, very critical when you are an affiliated school. You want to run a tuition center, you can have even a non-qualified person and run, you run. I'm okay with that. But now, under the new education policy, professional practitioners thing is also coming up very interesting in the country. So the people who are very good in some of the areas, if they acquire some teaching qualification, they can come back to your school and work. So when we are trying to talk about, there should be a standard. Based on this particular standard, our teaching learning practices needs to be defined, pedagogical practices, methods, assessments, all that needs to be defined, so that the teacher is well versed, equipped on that particular part of it. People are talking about 50 hours of CPD. I'm talking 4 into 4. I'll talk about that 4 into 4 into 4 model somewhere a little later. I will talk about it. I think that's something very important. Continuous professional development needs to be done. We don't need one more COVID to get technology. And please understand, the technology doesn't mean a technology tool. It is beyond a technology, because with so much of data coming in, you will surely require analytical tools to basically work on it, because that's going to be important. So the HR. Third, the HR, what kind of staff engagement programs you have. Engagement doesn't mean कि साल में एक बार खाना ले गए, you just taken them out for one particular outing. It doesn't mean. Engagement is across the year. What are the different things? It can be birthdays, it can be anniversaries, it can be anything that you think that somebody has acquired a new qualification, somebody's birthdays that you are trying to celebrate, somebody's son has got into something. I think that's something which people really need to kind of look at it. So not only this, then comes the recognition. So when we don't have a teacher standard, how are we recognizing our teachers? We're just saying, oh, उन्होंने एक period अच्छा कर दिया, principal thinks, management thinks, student thinks. No, it doesn't work like that. Let me make it very clear. If you have a standard, then the assessment of that particular teacher All your activities related to teacher must look at it. Not only this, the last important thing, the exit part of a teacher. I think it is very disturbing to see in many schools, that as soon as the teacher puts in the paper, the kind of behavior which changes in the community itself is very, very poor. So my request is that that particular person has contributed, even if it is for 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, that particular person, if he or she for one particular reason has moved out of your campus, I think give them a good send off. Give them a good send off. Don't forget about a bouquet. Don't give them, a lavish thing. At least call them, get them and recognize their contribution. Recognize their contribution and say few words and good appreciation. Let that particular, it's not only the student who becomes the ambassador, it is also the person who's assessing you. And one particular point to all those schools, which, leaders who are watching here, it's very important the person who is coming in, whom you are not interviewing, he is also interviewing you. So people do interview of the principals and come back and give feedback to us, where they say कि सर प्रिंसिपल्स को बेसिक ही नहीं मालूम है सर, कैसे चलाते हैं पता नहीं स्कूल सर. Now, it is not that the principals do talk about the students who are coming, the staff who are getting. So HR is again very important. Not only the important aspect is what are some of the inclusive practices that we have in our institutions. Because if we, just 1 minute, please. Sorry, infrastructure. I'll talk to inclusive practices later. Infrastructure. So what is this infrastructure? Now, when we go to all these institutions, we have this lab, we have that lab, all labs are good. How it is getting connected to your routines? Now, suddenly this fad has started coming about future labs and what you call emerging technologies, AI, VR, all that is good. There are few things which are for showcase. So if you're using them as a showcase material, then don't do investment on that. If you're struggling for admissions by just changing the colors of the classroom, changing certain infrastructure is not about it. It needs to get connected specifically to your curriculum. So infrastructure has to be connected to the curriculum. And once it gets connected to the curriculum, I think you will be able to appreciate what is being said very clearly. So that infrastructure should be complementing. Now, when you're designing, the SQAA document very beautifully says about it, what kind of, do you have adequate, do you have sufficiently done, how safe are they, every child gets one kind of material, or 3 people are sharing, all that is very clearly mentioned in the SQAA document. So when you read the document, try to read not as an independent chapter. I think in some school, they read different chapters and then they came together and said, हमने तो पूरा स्कोर कर लिया एक हफ्ते में. मैंने बोला आपने कैसे किया? तो बोला हमने एक चैप्टर दे दिया. सॉरी, ऐसे चैप्टर देने से नहीं होता. मैं बताऊंगा कैसे करना है. At the end of this particular session, how to take it forward is something very important. Because this is infrastructure is not infrastructure. आपने infrastructure बनाया, उससे पहले infrastructure बनाते से पहले how it is connected to your curriculum. Second, इस इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर को इंटीग्रेट कैसे किया? क्रिएशन इज इजी, इंटीग्रेशन इज सेकंड. इस सेकंड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का मेंटेनेंस कैसा है? दैट इज द थर्ड पार्ट ऑफ इट. मेंटेनेंस मतलब उसको झाड़ू पोछा मार के, मतलब यू आर जस्ट क्लीनिंग इट एंड कीपिंग इट, इज नॉट अबाउट इट. द थर्ड इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग इज दैट आफ्टर मेंटेनेंस इज यूटिलाइजेशन. Are you utilizing? How many of us have a notebook? People, whenever I go to schools, I see in the lab, okay, so and so class came from this time to this time, and then we have gone out of it. Utilization in the lesson plans. Do we have such kind of a thing? That what kind of a thing that is getting into the whole thought process is very important. So how is our infrastructure actually working? I think that's important. Not only infrastructure, what are the inclusive practices? हमने infrastructure तो बना लिया. Suddenly there was a circular from CBSE, and suddenly schools became very, very cautious about कि अब हमको 2 लिफ्ट लेना है, 2 लिफ्ट बनाना है, हर फ्लोर में टॉयलेट करना है, ये करना है, वो करना है. Yes. How many of us have read in this particular session something called as NBC 2015? We might not read. I'm sorry. Many of us don't even know. We go to the architect, plus please tell the architect, whoever is your architect, that along with the architect, please put a practitioner. Because many times architects only look at the aesthetics. Very few architects have the view to look at the safety of the campus. So my request to you is that please go and try to see that how inclusive is your campus, right from the policy for inclusiveness. Many schools they say, sir, hamare paas we don't have any children who are viklang and who need support and all those things. We don't even bother about it now. Is there a policy? Yadi hoga to that second part of it. But show me where are the ramps. In some schools, the ramps are like this. It just flies. I don't know how somebody will be able to push the wheelchair on. वो बोलते सर वो एस्थेटिक खराब हो जाता है लंबा डाल nonsense. We really need to make sure that our ramps are very, very clearly defined with that kind of level of slope which is expected as per NBC. So please go ahead and try to see that you should be able to get something called as National Building Code 2015. It's a voluminous document. From that, there is a very small section which is for school education. So please take it for education institution and then try to talk about it. Everyone, is trying to talk about how are you going to take care of these special children? How are you going to take care of people who are, physically challenged people? There are multiple types of, challenges we have. How are you trying to mainstream them? How are you trying to mainstream them? Do you have a policy for it? If there is a shadow teacher who's going to come to your institution, and I will tell you, if you read the SQAA document, you will find under inclusive practices, all these are mentioned very clearly. Not only this, governance and management plays a very, very important role. Governance and management takes a very important role. So what is this governance and management? We have a school management committee, which is being just made, hardly meets once in a year. You define that only once in a year we would like to be. Otherwise, we have a way to manage our campus is good. But please make a mention of it. If there is a compliance requirement to that, I can tell you the minutes are written, dummy minutes are written in many campuses, which is not right. Please understand, when some incident happens, then you start building upon the documents, which will not work for you. If you're only doing it for compliance, then just get everybody sent to all the members home, get their signature, file it, and then the work will get over. No, the intent is not about that. I think we really need to kind of work on governance and management practices. How the structure we are doing it, what kind of decisions are we taking? Are the management committee members also going and attending some of the new trends in education? Are they observing? Are they going out for learning missions? Are they going and studying some other school whenever they are outside the country or within the country in any other part of it? I think that's something very important. There are a few questions which have come in. Let me kind of quickly take up them. Okay. Yeah. Aishwarya Mole says curriculum framework should be done based on the belief systems of the institution. Not only that, Aishwarya, but you also need to go beyond the community that you are trying to talk about. You may have a belief system, but the people who are not coming in, then every day there will be a police van which will be standing outside your school. So be very clear. Gubain Matthew says that the doors of our school is open to our alumni. They just come and walk along with the corridors to cherish the memories. But please try to tell them that they should not be disturbing the routines of the campus. There should be some basic protocols which they should also follow. They are emotionally connected to it. It's good. They're helping you, very good. But then I think we really need to look at it. Aishwarya again says that social values play a vital role while we are preparing curriculum. Yes, you really need to. That's what I said, the local context. You may be a school which is originated in Delhi, but right now you're serving your school in Bangalore. So you can't get the practice which is done in NCR region. Your practices, your curriculum framework has to be at least 20% contextualized to this environment. And if it is not there, I think you're doing. Deepali also says, many of us confuse pedagogical framework with the board syllabus. Yes. No, our school socio-economic context will help us to define our own. Yes, that's what I was telling, Deepali. Teaching is an art, Maithili says, goes beyond qualification. Yes, Maithili, but there is something called as compliances. After some time, you will find there are people who are not even qualified. They're not qualified. I can say very good. I can't become principal of any school because I don't have the qualification. I don't have a qualification to become a principal, but I may be passionate. But then there are certain norms, because without norms, institutions don't work. Teachers should be updating their knowledge, otherwise they will be outdated. Yes, I agree. Aishwarya Govind Swami Saronan says that qualification, teaching experience, updating the teaching methodology is also important. Yes, please continue. Infrastructure should facilitate the implement of the curriculum. That's what I was talking about. 5S is just an approach. It's a Japanese approach. How exactly you can keep your campus upkeep and maintenance. Kalamohan says very clearly, intention matters towards, yes, children with special needs. We really need a mindset. हमारी सोच नहीं है तो then I think we are not doing anything. So my request is yes, I think she's very clear when Kala ma'am is talking about it, right? Go ahead. Dipali says washrooms are often neglected and smelly. Frequent cleaning is required. IP needs to be included, awareness on infrastructure as well. Okay. So what I'm trying to talk about it, start from the thought process. I think when we did a survey in for one of the schools and we found out what exactly the school requires, people said that they were not interested in curriculum and all in the early years. They only said, how safe is my campus? How hygiene is your campus? Then they talked about curriculum and all, infrastructure. They said, first batao safety kya hai campus ki at the early years. Second, they talked about hygiene of the campus. How hygienic is your campus? Because architectures would always like sharp edges, but till the 4 feet in your campus, never allow anything which is sharp. Never allow, because that is not that. Even if it is happening, then try to round it off. There are better ways to basically cover them, and you may have to fight with your architect. But I think you should start working on it. In India right now, we are not very compliant. We are not very particular on safety aspect of it. But I think inclusive practices and governance is something which is very important. Next is Natesh says, is it compulsory to have 2 doors in a classroom? Yes, that's what the mandate expects you. And please refer to National Building Code. Don't go by me. Please refer to National Building Code. Vikram Srinivasan says, sir, what is your advice for the person who starts new school up to grade 5 in terms of what? In terms of curriculum? I think if you read the SQAA document, you will start channelizing your expectation. Otherwise, what will happen is that many people will, what they will try to do is that they will give you all kinds of gyan based on their experiences. So don't go by somebody else's experience, because your experience matters. Now, if a school has all these 5 areas very clearly, that is curriculum, then the infrastructure, sorry, HR, the infrastructure, the inclusive practices, and governance and management. If these are the 5 areas which schools must start focusing more on it, automatically other things will. In governance, there are other things like transport policy will come in, financial management will come in, all those aspects will come in. So please read the SQA document. I'm not here to do a SQA awareness session. I'm here to see how exactly it can be used appropriately. All this must, whatever you have done, all these 5 should get aligned to vision, mission, values of your school. If your vision, mission, values are not very clearly defined, all this is English to me. You're talking, looking London, talking Tokyo. That means you are saying something and you're doing something which is not right. And when you try to look at all these 5 parameters, what is very critical in this is, what is very critical is that why you can look at this image even form of a sunflower. I thought that with the changing times, why I wanted to put it in the sunflower format is, with the changing times, the school also should move. All these things should move. You can't say that I did this school for 50 years back. I am not able to do. Sorry, there are people who have done fantastic, infrastructure changes by retaining the old building and making sure they are adding life to that particular whole building. So for all these areas, you should plan periodically. You should make sure that you do as per the plan, and the process approach has to be followed into all this. So you not only do plan, you also study how you have done this particular, all that what is being done. So that's where the review aspect is something which is very important for us, very important to us. And based on this study, we may also have to go and act, because we may have to change our policies, we may have to change our practices, we may have to review. And this is a very cyclic process. This is a cyclic process which we are supposed to look forward to. And we have to kind of understand. I think we are running a little behind schedule. Don't worry. The people who want to live can live, but the people who are going to be here, you will get the inputs, and the video will be available on the YouTube channel, so you can go and pick it up from there and see if you have planned something on a Sunday. But I'm sorry, because this is a very, very important area. And I thought I should do it in two parts, but then I thought, no, it'll lose its essence. I will try to finish it off the next 15-20 minutes. So please bear with me. So I think what's very important in this whole thing is that in curriculum, are you planning? Are you doing as per the plan? Are you studying whether you have done things as per the plan? Are you acting based on that particular study? Now, this is a very, very cyclic process, which will help you to evolve, grow. And that's why it is called as a process-oriented approach. And if it is not a process-oriented approach, if it is not a process-oriented approach, it will not work. Because as soon as that particular person who comes in, he will work, he will introduce something, the practices will run. As soon as the person will live, the practice also will die with that particular person, which should not happen. Which should not happen. And many people come with a lot of aspiration, personal aspiration, when they are there. So all this finally means the performance of a school has a direct correlation to the institution. Many people have good practices, but performance is very poor. Some people, their practices are so good that they have worked very, very, or they may be taking shortcuts too. They may be taking shortcuts too. That's why they may be getting the results. But what philosophy says is quality. Every practice must be equal to the performance of that particular intended practice. If intended practice is not giving you the performance, then things are not working for you. All this must be, because schools are at different levels. So when schools are different level, one of the things which many people keep asking me on one particular area is, Sandil, when you are trying to talk about, you say that, okay, schools have different. My simple request to you is that when you are trying to make a look at your school, try to divide them in 7 years, 14 years, 21 years. Because in seventh year you will already have two board classes you might have seen. In 10th, in 14th year you might have seen another 5 or 7, and then you might have also by 21. So in 7 years all the experimentations become part of the culture. Like somebody had asked a question saying that about the culture, so I'm saying the culture gets established over the first 7 years. Thereafter, it only starts formulating. So the people who get onto the boat are the people who will start following. That's where we always say that there are mother-in-laws and nanads and sasu, or mother-in-law and elder daughter-in-laws, which are always there in the school, which I keep talking about in my multiple sessions. So practice and performance needs to be very clearly. Now, when we talk about the school, I said 7, 14, 21, you can define them and then start working on it. That's one part of it. But the second part of it, which is very, very important, is we also need to look at, because SQAA is a tool which tells you how mature is your school. How mature is your school? And let me help you. Let me decode that, whatever is being said in the simplest form. What I have understood is what I have understood. It's all about individual. It's a very individual driven act. When an individual runs in the schools, and most of the things have been done, एक ही आदमी भागा दौड़ी कर रहा है, 4 लोग हैं, everybody is doing the same thing, and they are trying to bring upon it. And I can tell you there are schools which are at 20th year are still at this particular maturity level. They are at this level of maturity. They are very, very individual driven. If that individual lives, your school starts collapsing. That should not be the approach. This individual plus initiative, that is multiple people when they take the initiative. Because any new thing has to be considered as initiative. So any individuals with these initiatives, when you are trying to club, then only slowly it evolves as a practice. Initiatives becomes practice once you start repetitively doing it. So individual, you are moving to initiative. When these two gets matured, then what happens? You start converting this initiative into, you define them, review them, define them, and document them. We don't document. Documentation, paperwork के नाम पे schools don't do it. Sorry. आप चले जाओगे, school को जिंदा रहना है. School has to live. People may come, people may go. No individual is larger than an institution. Please understand this particular point. No individual is larger than an institution. So the system has to be defined very clearly. So while defining, you should look at the objective, you should look at the process, you look at the roles and responsibility, need to look at templates, you need to look at measurements, you look at periodicity of that particular practice, whatever that you are trying to initiative that you're trying to do. So all that, but all that when you're trying to do, you need some numbers. We can't say हमारे यहाँ assembly अच्छी चलती है. Assembly every school does well, and salute to all the people who do well. But when we talk about effectiveness, they are not able to define. Unfortunately, they are not able to define. Many people even don't know how to measure the effectiveness of the school. And I can challenge people, you can call me and have a conversation. We would love to have a conversation there. The fourth important practicing. People are already knowing what to do, how to do, and they are very sure about it. So karna kaisa? See, when the school is at the level 3, when that is at a stable level as per the SQAA document, I'm trying to decode the SQAA for you to understand the 4 levels little better in my language so that you appreciate it when you go back and it will kind of recollect. So when you're trying to talk about the people are practicing, there are a lot of preventive and corrective measures. That means people are knowing what to do, how to do corrections. Everything is welcoming in this particular stage. Not only this, this has to be level 4 is this. Now, don't try to read level 4 because I have seen many people only reading the last column and saying ki we are already at 4. Sorry, no, you are not at 4. You have to go from level 1 to level 2 to level 3 to level 4. Are you maturing like this? That is what is maturity all about. You don't start from this side. If you start from the other side, because when the first question itself on the first form says that you don't have a pedagogical structure clearly defined with the methods, strategies, and assessment, how can you say that you're mature? Sorry, it doesn't work. And that is where the level 3 will come. And when you come to level 4, you try to identify. And again, this benchmarking is such an abused word. Benchmarking is such an abused word. People keep saying, oh, we are benchmarking, we are benchmarking. Bench ko charo taraf line marna is not benchmarking. Sorry. Benchmarks can happen at 2 levels, process and performance, or practices and performance. So when the performance is good, you benchmark the performance and then you go back and review how your practice. How can you measure a practice? How can you look at a practice when your own practice is not documented properly? And I think that's something which is disturbing. All this is being taken at the management level. That means the management should also have the commitment. Then only 1, 2, 3, all that will happen. And the management will take a responsibility that every year we will do one assessment. The SQAA assessment salana birthday nahi hai. SQAA once in 3 साल में मनाना कुंभ मेला नहीं है, 4 साल में मनाना कुंभ मेला नहीं है. It is basically every year you are supposed to conduct that kind of assessment with your team. You may not take the whole assessment. You take a bit by bit. What are your focus areas, which I will talk about in my next slides, and that will help you. Because every time when we try to talk about these things, and maturity comes how? Maturity comes with sustenance of practices. And I think there's a comment by Roshni Handa, which he talks about saying that, okay, we are sustaining the practices equal. Yes, if you're not sustaining the practices, you will go back to level 2 or you will go back to level 1. Please understand, any practice will see without touching. If you continue a practice, let the people move. In 3 years, the practice will see its natural death. It will see its natural death. I am seeing in many schools, many of the practices which we have introduced before this COVID, and now when we go after COVID, when we went, practices got killed. Practices got just killed, which should not be. Anyone say that I'm not going to do the brushing in the morning? No, you have to, and you don't have a choice. So when we try to talk about all these are being mentioned, whatever I have talked about is mentioned in the scope. I've changed a different image just for you to understand how exactly the maturity, and I've changed the language also a bit for people to understand it. So when we are trying to talk about this, we really need to understand that level 1 is all about inceptive. That's where I was talking about initiative level things. Then I was trying to talk about transient, which is nothing but they are at an early stage, and practices are they're just doing something, they're doing correction and next moving on. They're not even sustaining. The level 3 is that people evidenced Evidence of data-based improvement. That means you're using data for improvement. You're not saying कि आज मैं strong हूँ, आज मैंने. Even if you say you are strong, you should weigh something or you should run something, and then you say that today I ran 5 kilometers in so many minutes. Or if you're doing a weightlifting, how much weight did you lift today? That means there is a data which is required. So then only you can look at the third level. हम लोग थर्ड लेवल करते, थर्ड लेवल की बात ही नहीं करते. System is defined in document. I think documentation, a governance manual of a school is must. People are aware of their roles, what they are supposed to do, how they are supposed to do. Not only this, they have practices where they are doing the correction, improvement. I think that is something, and they are converting them into preventive too. It is not only about correction, it is also about the prevention, because prevention is something which will help all of us to do well. Now, this is something which is available, but I have changed the language a bit for you to understand. Levels are very clear, but the same 4 levels are something which we are trying to talk about. When we try to talk about the school or school's practices, this is what has come out in the SQAA document. The first and the foremost thing, the performance of a school is all about academics. And please understand today, whatever you are trying to do, you will have to go back and talk about achievement of LO. 358 assessment are going to be diagnostic assessment, which will talk about the effectiveness of your academic practices. If the school is getting so many awards, so many recognition, so many Olympiad activities, then your academic practices should be good. No. There is something which is wrong. There is something which is wrong, and you are not able to see the practice effectiveness. So academics, again, very important. The second important is staff. I've talked about it. I'm just reinforcing this point after the maturity. In what is the maturity level of your school? Are you giving just one-page employment letter? Are you giving a booklet plus a one-page employment letter? Are you following the letter and spirit? Are you trying to fill up, take the signature of last 10 years by one, asking one particular teacher कि तुम बैठ के जरा इसको sign करो सारी चीजों को, पिछले 10 साल की चीजों को? No. So staff again, so the effectiveness is something very. Next is the infrastructure of the school, then the impact. Because schools are supposed to make impact. You are not trying to say that how many awards you have got, recognitions what you have got. You're also supposed to say that what is the kind of impact that you have contributed to the whole community that you are working on. And if you are working on that, you will be able to appreciate this very, very clearly. Now, all this, finally, the most important thing which is important for a school is their economic model. Their economic model. If their economic model is not clearly defined, then they will have, then I can say they will surely have a problem. Because if they don't have this particular thing, financials clearly done, and I think many people who know me, I always use this example, Lakshmi Saraswati management. And principal is actually the Ganesha sitting in between the Lakshmi and Saraswati. Because somewhere you need economics to manage the education, and you need good education also to manage the economics. So by just charging some fee, by charging certain, by paying something, no. Because I know such branded schools in the country, जिनके पास basic practices आज जाके पूछो तो भी आज की तारीख में नहीं है. And they may be rated by the best schools, best magazines, and best of the media houses. They are the best school, and I've challenged many of them in multiple forums. So what I'm trying to say is that finance, academics from finance, both has to balance it out correctly. And if you go back to CBSE bylaws or ICSE bylaws or Society Act or the Trust Act, please follow them protocol when it comes to financials. Now with FRC, fee regulatory committee coming in multiple schools, I think it is becoming important for all of us. So when you try to look at a school's performance, I think these are the 5 things which will come, and inclusive practices in all these things is something the process approach will work. So I'll just give you one example of academics because we don't have much of time. Second, this is not a workshop, so I'm not getting into detail. When you try to talk about the SQAA document, these are the areas which basically comes under that. These are the areas which basically comes into that. In all these areas, we really need to understand first and the foremost thing is that we need a curriculum framework, which many of us don't have. And if you don't have a curriculum framework, how are you rating yourself in question number 1 in SQAA 5 or 4? Sorry, 4, no 5, 4. How can you rate yourself more? And that too divided specific, and 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 has just got introduced. 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 has just got introduced. So we really need to be very cautious about saying that how exactly it works. Now, all this must also get into this way, which I don't know how many have. Do we have a 5-year strategy plan? We have a 3-year rolling plan. Then we have an annual pedagogic annual curriculum plan, which is nothing but CBSE talks about APP. Do we have a scheme of work or academic plan for the year? Have we defined the pedagogical practices of an institution? Is there an assessment policy? A one-page note कि हम साल में 3 बार assessment करते हैं is not about assessment. Sorry, the expectation at NEP is quite different. The formative assessment without rubrics is only drama. It is only drama. And when we some other day we'll talk about HPC and digital portfolio and other things, not today. But then I think it's very important for us to understand this particular perspective, how exactly our assessment policy is connected. And there's no homework policy. It's all about extended activities. So as per NEP, extended activities and what kind of enrichment activities you are trying to do. So if you try to look at academics in the SQAA document, it is expecting you to do all this. And according to me, all this must be aligned to 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. They are not separate for first 5 years or 3 years of a whole school. You can have a general whole school, but specificity in the 4 segment is something very important. All this will give you reflection. So every teacher's reflection of a activity, a lesson plan, because learning outcome of each one of these activities. If you open the NCF document, it very clearly says that just below the school culture and processes, it says learning outcome. Learning outcome of each subject, each chapter, each concept, if you multiply or if you add them, the overall school, the child's growth competency will come in. But unfortunately, we have not even defined them. So the reflections written by the teacher in the lesson plans, the reflection written in the registers where they are doing the activities in terms of sports, games, co-curricular activity, dance, drama, assembly, वहाँ के जो reflections हैं, all these reflections must get into something called as learning and innovation. The changes in those particular activities will bring in innovation. That's how it is called as एक जमाने में हमारे स्कूल में the practices used to happen like this, and today it is happening like that. And that's something very important which we are supposed to work on it. More than anything else, people talk about this 50 hours business. Now, people are just trying to say that, okay, I need 50 hours, I have to upload. When you're only for uploading, it is only compliance. It's only compliance. My suggestion is that we work on domain for 4 days. Whatever the subjects, pedagogy, subjects, you need to spend 4 days on that particular. If there is a person who is going to play a role, whatever avatar he or she is going to take it up, for that you are supposed to look at for 4 days. At the school level also, the improvement needs to happen. Suppose you are trying to introduce robotics in the classroom. You are trying to introduce some kit where the history teacher wants to use that particular kit into social sciences, which is not possible, people say, but I have seen and I can share some other day how it can be actually done. But I think it's very important how it has been done in subject specific area. When you try to look at, have we actually SQAA को ऐसे देखो आप, domain 1 को if you start looking at it, all this is nothing but practices. All these are practices. These practices must give you the performance. So all these practices say your performance निकलेगा. Your reflections are your performances. And when we are trying to talk about performance, we also need to understand that this particular 50 hours for your training hogi, that should give you some kind of learning and innovation. Because if it is not giving you learning and innovation, I don't know why are we doing it. So for each one of those areas, 5 areas, 6 areas, you are supposed to work on it like this. Then only you'll be able to see meaning in whatever that has been done. And this is just an example for academics, what I have taken. Now, many people will be thinking, how do we start? Very interesting. First of all, go back and try to create something called as, school level or core level team or core committee or whatever number you would like to say. SLT bana lo ya CLT bana lo, jo bhi naam dena, you can create. And in that, you should have somebody from SMC, a principal, teacher from 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4, one each. You can have the counselor, you can have school administration, one person, IT staff, one, and then one parent representative. Now, you should make a combination, but this is my suggestion. My request is please go back and follow the SQAA document. Now, how it has to be done is very important because many a times we don't know how exactly it has to be. You can't read different chapters, give different chapter to different people and say that we have completed the thought process. No, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. So first, you're supposed to independently read the document, all the sections. Don't try to read only one section, because many a times we have seen people are only reading one particular section of it, and then they say, no, you have not understood how it is linked to others. So my request to you is that read the whole document. Take time. Nothing is urgent today. Take time. If every culture takes some time for you, so read the document and make notes of yours. Because while reading it, please try to keep going back to your class school. कि मेरे school में क्या हो रहा है? What is happening in my school? In school if it is running, how it is running is something which we need to look at. The second important point, once you read it, while reading it, keep in pencil underlining what are the areas that is plus for you, what are the areas which is missing. So you have to identify what is the area that we may have, we don't have. Keep taking the notes. So best thing which I tell people is on the left hand side of the questionnaire, which is being given by the in the SQAA document, those questions, start putting it on the left hand side, put all the weaknesses. On the right hand side, put all these strengths. Keep writing. When you're writing the question, keep taking the notes. And when you're taking this particular notes, then do a scoring based on this, not on your feeling. Because many times we go in feeling, apna school hai, 2 number aur de do. No, this is not a board practical examination where you have to give 18 out of 20, or if you are trying to fool yourself, you will continue to fool yourself. Because I've seen many schools ranking themselves quite well. No. So when you try to talk about SQA, it's a beautiful diagnostic tool for yourself, which you should be able to kind of work on it. So please score. So first do it individually, then sit as a team. Now, what I'm trying to say, read again here is read together is all the people, all the members who are part and parcel of it. I think you must take time to make sure that how you're reading in the same language, because the appreciation of the concept based on the maturity of the person, number of years experience, the kind of qualification what we carry, the kind of awareness what we have will be helpful. All that you do that, exchange your notes, collate the identify list of identifieds in the common areas. There are only two things which can happen in this place. One, convince or get convinced. Convince or get convinced. I think this is very, very important. From this, all that convincing, something which is coming up, we will surely, kind of look at it. But identify 3 for each one of those domains. And at a school, identify 5. 3 areas for improvement, or 3 strengths, or 3 areas for improvement, or opportunity for improvement. That's your wish. I'm not getting into. Okay, that is 3. Then 5. Then do a scoring together. And be ruthless to yourself. Be ruthless. Be professional. मैं सुंदर नहीं हूं, मैं सुंदर कैसा हूं, am I beautiful? How you have to keep on, be ruthless. Don't try to keep saying, okay, no, we are doing well. हम तो already कर रहे हैं. We are already doing it. And some of these, I have started seeing with some of the schools. I'm sorry that, other board schools, international board school principal, oh, we are already done it. It's all rubbish. I've been seeing most of the schools, the kind of practices which are there. You can't fool yourself. If you're fooling, then upar wala aapko bacha hai, nobody else can help you. Coming to the implementation, and there is one question which Sangeeta has asked, Sangeeta Kapoor has asked, can you throw some light? Yeah, I'll come to that now. Implementation plan with 5W1H. Sangeeta, I think you're asking that question. Otherwise, once you get the 3 domain-specific improvement plans, and from the 3 into 5 is 15. From the 15, take the 5 area as the priority area, immediate for year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5. Don't try to do everything in 1 year. Highly impossible. Highly impossible. Highly impossible. So my request is just take 3. And I think it's very simple to do 5W1H, 5Y1s. I think all of us know when, what, who, where, all those things and how it has to be done. If you are trying to make a plan for it and then do an implementation plan, who will do it? Define that person's responsibility and then periodically review based on the necessity. If it requires 15 days review, it requires 1 month review, it requires 3 month require, it takes 6 months or annual, you really need to. But maturity as it comes, I think you need to increase the time for the review part of it. So this is something which is very important. And once you start working on this periodic review, automatically you'll be able to see lot of value. And this is where what happens, we need to kind of start looking at these two areas. We need to review, we need to reflect. We need to review and we need to reflect. And whenever we are trying to talk about these areas, what is that we are trying to look at it? Where are we right now? Where are we right now? And once you try to understand that where you are, then where you want to go, and that is nothing but your aspiration. And once you want to know what is working, what is not working for us, reflect on these areas, and then automatically you will be able to find a lot of value. You will be able to find value. But at the end of the day, implementation is the success of a SQA is only in the implementation. If you're not implementing, you're wasting everybody's time. So what is the action based on the assessment? Once you do the assessment and you have developed the plans and everything, now you have to go back and then start the review and reflect. Once you do the review and reflect during the process, you'll find out a lot of strengths which are coming to you. Now this strength has to be strengthened, and whatever is doing well, just do the enhancement of it. Because once you start doing the enhancement of it, you will start finding value. You will start finding value that people are actually doing things with lot of interest. Otherwise, it will not give you the result. So what exactly it means? It basically means this question. Ask yourself this question. As a school leader, as a teacher, as a owner, if you're attending this particular session, why I am doing this? So there are two things which happens. Am I doing it for compliance just to get affiliation extended, or am I doing this for mm, uh, excellence? And if it is excellence, I think it's a journey. You can't call something which is done once and then you say, okay, no. Once you got the results, you have to sustain the results and you have to make sure. Because when you are doing this particular assessment, please also go back and look at policies. If you don't have policies, हमारे पास सब most of the schools के पास एक पैच की पॉलिसी. पॉलिसी लिखते समय उसका स्कोप क्या है, उसका स्कोप क्या है, नहीं है तो कम से कम स्टार्ट करना आज से शुरू करो. स्टार्ट फ्रॉम टुडे. यू डोंट हैव टू वेट एंड some other day it will happen. Just start today. And there is nothing called as late. And if start with POXO, my request is start with POXO and POSH. Many schools, this is becoming a huge nuisance right now. So be very clear that you need to define your POXO and POSH very, very clearly. And while defining this particular policy, please be very clear about the scope, what it covers, whether it is inside the people, outside the people, the guests who are coming. All those people is something which you really need to look for it. The second important point, what you are supposed to look at is what is the objective. Why are you creating that particular policy? What will be the processes under that particular policy? What are the structure to manage this particular policy? What are the different things this particular committee will do or this particular structure will do? Process I have mentioned. Then measuring the effectiveness of it. Whenever, suppose if it is a monthly meeting which POSCO expects you to do, if there is or POSH expects you to do one monthly meeting on opening up any complaint happened, not happened, like that, there are some compliances required. So please go and follow those compliances. Don't go by what I'm saying. My request is please read those statutory regulatory norms and define yourself. So policies, if you don't have, start writing and don't come back with one-page policy. Many schools you go, they just write English. If you have not given the structure, I think it's not working for you. The second, all these policies must be put into the school governance manual. If you don't have a clear-cut manual which has been defined, done by you, I think you're not getting anything. You're not getting anything. Because there has to be a Bhagavad Gita, Bible, Quran, or Guru Granth Sahib, whatever you would like to say, which everybody will follow in the school. And all this must come from your policies. All these policies must be, kind of reviewed. During the governance, when the governance meeting is happening, all this, you need a lot of data. You need a lot of data. And this particular data, whatever you're trying to review, you have to kind of see that the performance. So in a management meeting, again, go back and look at those 5 areas which I talked about: academics, infrastructure, safety, staff, the financials, everything, those 5 areas which I've mentioned. If you kind of look at those 5 areas and start working towards that, our management meeting may not be more than 1 hour. 30 minutes to 1 hour is management meeting. More than that is that people have not done their work. The management committee members are not serious about what they are, why they are there. And it is our responsibility as the teachers or as the principal or as the leader of head of institution that we are supposed to send all the points below them, ask them to read. Otherwise, they will come and say, "Hey, just give me one copy, of that I forgot to carry or I have not even read it." So then they start reading. When they start reading, obviously the management committee meeting will go for 3 hours. It will go for 3 hours. A management committee meeting is all about decisions with the data. Decisions, performance review is measured with data. And if you're able to do that, you are almost there. For all these things, I can say, for all this, I can say that yes, management committee management's commitment is the key. If management commitment is not there, I think we are not going anywhere. You can start posting the question because I'm just going to finish it off in next couple of slides. And then if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to kind of answer. Please understand this particular point. Please understand. Accreditation is byproduct of school routines. Accreditation is byproduct. I'm not talking about SQAA. I have gone beyond the SQAA. When you try accreditation globally, we really need to understand this particular point very, very clearly that accreditation ho jayega automatically. Otherwise, when we see in higher education already, when NAC comes in, I think people are doing preparation for almost 3 months. Classes are not running on time. Everybody is busy without work. Why? Because we don't have policies. We don't have policies. We don't have a governance manual. Even if it is government manual is there is no data. And we are trying to say that this is going to work. No. So please understand that when we are trying to talk about all this, we really need management commitment. If management is committed, I think things will happen. So all of us in this particular session who are attending right now, my request to all of you is that please see that how exactly you can. So again, I repeat, accreditation is the byproduct, and then only we can say that we are accredited. Accreditation will come. Accreditation need not be bought. Today it is voluntary. Mind it, I'm saying. I'm telling it very, very clearly now. Mark my words. In 2019, when I did the review like this for NEP document, I think many people said, "Ye sab desh mein nahi hoga," and I'm already seeing things happening in the country. Accreditation, mark my words, in 3 years from now, it will become mandatory. It will become mandatory. Today, it might have got introduced by CBSE for affiliation thought processes, but what is very important is how exactly can we strengthen them. And if you're able to strengthen them, I think that's fantastic. Not only that, please understand, if you are doing SQAA is not only for compliance, it is beyond compliance. SQAA is beyond compliance. And if you are only going to use it as a compliance, I think choice is always yours. With that particular thing, I will kind of take up the questions now, if there are questions, because I'm keeping an eye on it. Naseem Khanum says, "Thank you, Salil sir, for the informative session. Excellent session." Govind Sami says, "Excellent session." Okay, thank you. Wonderful session. Much required. Samuel Jan says, "Okay. I think I've answered most of the questions." Sangeeta, did I answer the question? Just say yes. Yes, Aishwarya says that academics are the top level expectations as a parent, not at the early years. Aishwarya, I may little disagree with you. This is at our senior classes, yes, but not there. I think Guben says you are truly gone beyond SQAA. Thank you, Guben Matthew. Time worth spent. I think we have exceeded time. Shivanand Sharga says very useful. Jaydeep, thank you very much. Any other question, if it is there, you can post and I'm available. In the meantime, I'll try to say one or two things more. When I'm not touched here about the technology, as a practitioner, if I see, because this is done for the first time, there will be some gaps. We have also been highlighting these gaps to the officials. And I would request you also to keep giving the feedback to the officials, because many of the questions and the evidences, there is a little correlation issue. There is a correlation issue. which has been mentioned in the, and then what the technology is asking, there is again little gap is there. So we have already highlighted that, and we will continue to highlight this, from our side to the officials at the board. But we would request you also to keep talking about it. Yes. Any other question? Okay. Ekta says, thank you very much. We are now getting clarity about our task. Thank you. Vibha says, thank you. Excellent. Soumya says, Roshni, okay, okay, okay. Uh, says, periodic review helps in smooth functioning of the institution. Yes. Bhupinder Gogia says, thank you so much for giving us a clarity. Shania John, thank you. Uh, Shivani, St. Paul School, yes, Shivani. Anybody else? No. I think with that, what I would like to do is that I would like to thank everyone who has joined this particular session. And please do share your feedback on the email or on the WhatsApp, because that keeps us motivating to keep working on it. As promised, I will surely come back and work on a session on data literacy, which is going to become very important for all of us very soon. With that note, you are free, as I shared in the said in my session, you are free to share the link. It will be available again. It may come back. The people who have got the invitation of the WhatsApp will also get the link of this particular thing. You are free to, like somebody requested for one of the sessions from Kerala, that can I download this? You are free to download. I'm not going to ask for any copyright. So at this particular juncture, I would like to thank CBSE for coming out with that wonderful book, which is called as CBSE SQAA, at least which has brought in lot of perspectives, lot of things which schools have kind of now started thinking, कि ये हमारे पास नहीं है. So with that note, thank you very much. Stay safe and best wishes to all your children who are taking up the so-called board examinations. According to me, कुछ सालों में you may not have to kind of worry much about the boards as such, because you may khud school-based boards, you may have to do it with academic honesty policy signing. And I think we'll talk about that sometime in future. But stay safe, convey my wishes to all your team members, to all the students who are taking up the assessments for the boards. Namaste. Thank you very much.